Okay, so we're going to continue our discussion on Photoshop 2023. In fact, I'm actually using the beta version of Photoshop, as you can see up at the top of my
Cornelius,
screen.
may I interrupt you at the start to
Yeah.
ask you to introduce who you are and what this group is? And
What was that again?
could you please introduce yourself and
Oh, yes.
and who you are representing, what this group is?
Yes. My name is Cornelius Chopin. I'm the co-manager of the Adobe Users Group. We meet monthly, the second Thursday of every month, mostly. We talk everything Adobe, and we are looking for anybody can teach Photoshop or Illustrator, or anything Adobe. We welcome you guys to teach, to come and drop us a line if you would like to teach any class on Adobe. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the newer some of the newer features of Adobe Photoshop 2023. And so for the sake of those who was not here before, I'm going to do a quick review for two reasons. One, for those who was not here, but also there's some new techniques and things that I picked up on some of the newer features. So I'm going to do a quick review of that, and then I'm going to cover some additional new features at the close of this presentation. So with that in mind, let's get started. So first thing I want to do, and this is a little tool tip that you should know by now if you've done Photoshop for some time. If you double click on the hand tool, it gives you what they call fit to screen. So whatever your screen size is, that is a quick way to jump to the chase, cut to the chase. John knows what that terminology means. And if you do the magnifying glass, it goes back to 100%. You can see 100% down at the bottom there. So that's a quick way, particularly when you're training, you want to make a full screen presentation, just double click the hand tool and you're there without much fuss. So with that in mind, another thing that I often recommend that particularly beginners, but more advanced and expert Photoshop users should do too, is never destroy your original work. And I normally tell people to select the layer and do Control or Command J, depending upon if you're on a Mac or PC, to create a copy of that layer and turn off the bottom layer, okay? Just as a matter of habit, I do that quite often because nothing worse than I often get the analogy of wedding picture. If you mess up a person's wedding picture, they're not going to be too happy with you, believe me. Okay, so you always want to back up your backup. You know, my Chopinism on that, back it up before you jack it up, right? And my backup, that's backups. So back up your copy with a duplicate. Command and Control J is your friend. So with that in mind, let's look at this new feature. I should say enhanced feature in Photoshop. They've improved the object selection tool. Now, we've always used a quick selection tool, which has been around for, I guess, a decade now, if not longer. But this new tool is the object selection tool. And as the name implies, it will select an object, right? Okay, so let's click on it. And you can kind of see I get this icon right here. But I want to bring up at the top here, go up to the top here rather, show you that this will create a new selection. This would add, subtract. You know about adding, subtracting from a selection. This is the object finder. So if you have that selected and you hover over an object, it will do its best to try to select that object. It does a fairly good job. And again, now this is all AI, not Adobe Illustrator, but artificial intelligence that goes out and examines its surroundings. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about content aware fill. And it literally makes a selection for you. I love that, by the way. And you can see I can literally just hover. Now it didn't select this one. So it's not perfect, right? Artificial intelligence, by the way, will never replace human. Okay, we will never be, we might be imitated, but never duplicated. Okay, that's a little slogan from the marching band at Southern University in Grambling Band. Okay,
it might take our jobs.
Huh?
It might take our jobs.
Yeah, well, it might take some people jobs. But for us creative folks, it's not going to always be perfect. And we'll see that in just a minute. So you can literally hover around your image and it will select that object just by hovering over it. How cool is that? I remember we used to have to take the pen tool and trace around stuff. It take hours just to trace over this thing right here, for crying out loud.
We had so many meetings showing how to do that.
Huh?
We had so many Adobe meetings showing how to do that.
Okay, so what I want to do is show you some other techniques as well. So the first thing you do is you just can't hover over it, you got to click on it. So that's one thing I discovered too, just by hovering, and that's going to highlight it, but not select it. So to select it, you need to click it. And then you notice when I click it, then I get the marching ants, right? Now, this is where the power lies. Once you've clicked it and made a selection, you can also remove it from the scene. So for example, if I right click on this and there's a new button called delete and fill selection. Now this is an enhanced version, as you saw in my previous training, of content aware fill. I'm not going to go over that again, but this one does a better job in a lot of cases, not always, but in a lot of cases, than the content aware fill, where you have to make a selection, then kind of enlarge the selection and then do the content aware fill. Well, this does a better job. Let's select this and watch what happened to that object on this table. Bam. Just like that, that object's gone. Let's select another object.
Cornelius, since it's hard to read the text on the screen, if it's too small, would you let us know the name of what you're selecting? You said right click and select this, and I couldn't read what the selection was.
Okay, so let me Control Z. So I clicked on this object to select it, right? It's coffee cup, whatever that is. Yeah, a mug, if you will. And then I'm right clicking and I'm going down to the option that says delete and fill selection. So it's going to delete, going to do two operations. It's going to delete it, and then it's going to fill it with what we call a content aware technique, but a better version of that. And it does a good job of deleting it. Now watch, I'm going to do this again. By the way, you don't have to, let me do this. When you have the object selection tool, and you have two options, you have the rectangle tool and the lasso tool. So you could select either one of these depending upon the object in the scene. So if you use the rectangular tool, watch what happens if I try to select an object. Not only can you hover over an object, but you can just lasso it. But if I hover over just a portion of the object, notice it selected the whole object, which is kind of cool too. Okay, because with the quick select tool, you had to kind of come down here and grab that. So it knows that it can go outside of the boundaries of your selection to make a selection. So that's cool. So let's see if we could delete this one. Now that we have it selected, you can note again, you have a selection when you see the digital ants marching around the canvas. And then I could do delete and fill selection. And now notice what it did. It was looking at this laptop, and it gathered some information from that laptop and put it in this place right here, which is not exactly what I wanted to do, but we could correct that by using the lasso tool. I could just draw a selection, right click and do delete and fill selection. Again, this is my third time. Bam, life is good. Okay, and then you can keep on doing this, however many times you need to. I'm telling you that, I'm sorry, but that's just cool to me. If I just want to get rid of this little brown spot here. So that's not even an object. I'm just selecting something. That's not even an object I'm selecting. Okay. Now watch what happens when I get to this pin though. Let me use the object selection tool again. Let me do Control D because I have a selection going. Now I'm gonna use the object selection tool, and it's not selecting the pin for whatever reason. It's not doing it. So what I'm gonna have to do is, because I have my lasso tool selected, I can lasso around it, right? And see if I can get it to work. Now that I have it selected, you can see a selection. I'm gonna right click, delete and fill selection. And notice again, it borrows some information, keyword there, data, depending upon what part of the country you're from this paper. So I'm gonna just select it again and do delete and fill selection. Voila. Now it's not perfect, but it's good enough. What we like to say, or what I like to say on a job, is good enough for government work.
Cornelius, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are there settings on that delete and replace selection that one can adjust so it would be less likely to select neighboring objects? Like
No,
a
you just had that
sensitivity
one
adjustment?
option. Yeah, you just have, once you have that selection, when you click and make a selection, you just had that one option. Now you can go up here and change the way things behave. Like if you click on this, it's going to select all of the objects in the scene. If you click on that object, on that icon rather, you can manually, you go down here and change the color of the selection. Okay. Or you could change, you could take it on from automatic to manual. I don't know why you would want to do that.
Can you zoom in on that menu any?
No, I can't zoom in on that though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
but it says auto refresh and manual refresh.
Great.
Okay. That's what that says right there. Object finder mode. So you got two mode, either manual or automatic. And I prefer to keep it on automatic.
Yep.
And then you could change the color. If everything in the image is red, you might want to change your selection color to a different color in order for it to recognize it, in order to see it better, I should say.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, and then you have then these two options of either you can lasso or you can use the rectangular tool to make a selection, and then you can sample all layers. Now, I only have one layer here, but if you had multiple layers, you can drill down. If there's transparency between the layers, it's going to select from a layer below it, but that's not the case in this. So anyway, that's the selection in a nutshell. The bottom line is you can hover over an image or you can lasso over an image, either way, or draw a rectangle around the image. And you don't even have to be perfect. I'm just, look at that. I'm doing half of that shape. And it makes a selection of it. Now, if you want to add to a selection, it's common procedure, right? You hold on the combination keys to add or subtract from a selection like you normally would. I didn't mean to do that, Control Z. Let's see what it does there. The more processing. Ooh, what did I do there? I think I inverted a selection. Yeah, that's what I did, I think. So that didn't go across too well. Anyway, that's the selection beginner. I want to do a quick review of that. Now, live gradient, I learned some additional techniques in live gradient and live the live Gaussian blur. So let's look at that with this one. With this image, again, I'm gonna double click on the magnifying the hand rather to give me 100%. And I'm gonna do Control Command J to duplicate and then turn off the bottom layer just in case if you do cut out, you can see the transparency below. Okay, now I'm gonna make actually what I discovered is you don't have to make a selection with this technique. It actually creates a mask for you. So watch this. So the last time I taught this, I had made a selection and you know how to do that by now, right? You select that and then do, this thing is in my way, select subject, and it's gonna do a good job of selecting the subject. You command and Control J, you should know that by now in Photoshop, and it's gonna duplicate that selection to the top layer. So I'm turning that layer off so you can see it's against a transparent layer. Well, you don't really have to do that with this technique that I'm about to do because you can erase from the blur. So let's look at this. If I go to filter, make sure I'm on a layer that is visible, right? And if I go to blur, now notice there's two type, there's the, let me see, which one am I looking to do? Oh yeah, no, let's do the Gaussian. That's what I'm looking for. The Gaussian blur live. Then this is the old one. Remember the way you do this one is you select it and then you get this dialog box, which is way big. Let me zoom out of that so you can see it better. That's the radius. This is the image itself. So anyway, you could blur the image like this, right? Using the this is the old school way of doing this. This is the before and after, right? And then when you did that, it created that image. It blurred that image, but it's destructive, right? I mean, I've destroyed that image basically because I've wrote to that particular layer. Not what you want to do. Now, if you do want to do that without destroying it, you can make that object a smart object, and that way you don't destroy it. So I'm gonna do Command and Control Z to undo that and go back to the original image. Now, the advantage of using the live version of that filter is that you can do it without destroying the image. So I'm gonna do a live Gaussian blur, and it's going to blur the image, the whole image again. And again, you can adjust the amount like we did before, right? Oh, not only that, but you have the added advantage of adjusting the opacity of the fade. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, what if you wanted to make like a frosty glass, right? Where you could kind of see through it, right? Like a bathroom glass, right? It's frosty. You could see the person behind it, but you can't see much, right? Well, that's what that opacity fader will do. It allows you to change the opacity of the blur, if you will. Now, you have two options. This is another advantage of using the new technique, is that you could put it to a current layer, or you could use a new layer. Now, I would recommend putting it on a new layer. Okay, it's going to create a new layer in the layers panel, and then you can do the before and after. Now, I'm going to bump this up big time to show you. And let me do this. Do the opacity, but I'll bump this down. So I'm gonna blur it like that. Now, again, I'm blurring the whole image. Well, what if I want to bring the subject, which is this runner, back into focus? And this is where the magic begins. You have these two options right here. How cool is that? Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that minus means to subtract, plus means to add, right? So if I can add or subtract from that mask, okay, or from that blur effect, because that's basically what I'm doing. So I want to subtract from the mask. I'm going to adjust the size of my brush stroke by either using the left or right square bracket. That's how you increase the size of any brush stroke, eraser, brush, or whatever. And you can increase or decrease the size of the brush stroke depending upon the object. And I could paint back. In fact, I'm going to paint over this image because it doesn't really matter for this image that I'm going outside of the, because I want to get the defined edges of the shape of this object. And I could literally paint that person back into focus. And again, I'm not going to go into I'm not going to be too detailed with it. You guys get the drift where I'm going with this. And if you made a mistake and you needed to blur maybe something like maybe you went too far, you could click the plus and add back. You can see I'm adding back to the blur, right? So you can add or subtract the effect by using these little brushes, if you will, right up here. So I'm gonna hit the minus sign again and brush back in what I have. Now, when I click OK, it's going to create, remember, a new layer. Automatically creates a new layer from that's the before. Well, let me tell you, that's the before after. Okay. And I didn't get all of it, so I missed a spot right there, but you guys understand where I'm going with that. So that's the live version of that feature. I kind of like it. I always like being able to do stuff non-destructively without destroying the layer, and not having to create a smart object to maintain that effect. So that's the other one. Now, another technique that I learned is the live gradient, which is another one that is neat. So let's do that one. Let me just create a new layer. I'm gonna use the new layer icon down at the bottom here. Actually, I'm gonna do a solid layer. Let's just do a solid layer like that. So I created that solid layer right there. And I'm gonna turn this layer on so you can turn that layer on. So you can see that this person is on top of this black background, right? I just created. Okay. A good way to create a solid layer is just to do a solid color right there and choose whatever color you want for that background. In this case, it's black. But let's say we want to add a gradient to that background. Well, remember in the old days, 2 months ago, you could use the gradient tool and select a gradient, and you click and drag out your gradient. Well, that's the same, but this time you actually have the ability, just like you would in Adobe Illustrator, that's been in Illustrator for years, is the ability to literally move this gradient tool around. You can see I'm adjusting the colors of that gradient. So I can move the endpoints. I can move the I can harden it, the how much its feathers blend gradient wise, or you can move this handle and adjust it all in real time. Or you can add to a color. For example, if I get to it, notice you see the plus sign. If I click it, it will add, in this case, it added black, but I could double click on that and change that to whatever color I want, all in real time. I like that. Okay. Now you say, well, and what happens if you get away from that gradient too? Because this is where I was lost. It's like I got it. How did I get that nice little tool back where I can manipulate it, right? Well, that's easy. All you have to do is click right here and you're back in business. Okay. Now, if you double click, you get the gradient fill dialog box that allows you to maybe, you could change the gradient, or you could remove gradients, stop, right? And then do whatever you want. So you get the gradient fill, you double click on this, you get the gradient editor. They're two separate dialog boxes that work in unison with one another. And again, you can always click back onto this thing here. When you are finished, you can always click back on it and manipulate this thing however you want, depending upon your need. That's a game changer, if you will, for me. Because the trend, and as my State Farm agent would often say, the trend is your friend. I'm seeing a lot of the gradient background in a lot of the YouTube videos, thumbnails, and all of that. It's just a little pleasing look to have a nice gradient instead of a boring white or black background. Add a little pop to your image, if you will, please, by putting a nice gradient, if you can, to that image. So that's the other one. So let's look at another option, and I'm gonna delete this. And I am going to, let's see, I'm gonna select this one, but this time I'm gonna do Windows Material. Now we saw this one earlier too. Now this is a borrow or carryover from Adobe Illustrator as well. It's amazing how those two kind of borrow from each other, right? And it's taking us some time to load, but it should show up here, hopefully. Let's see. Should see my materials? Oh, there you go. It took a while. And let me just select a different tool. Let me a different texture. What about that? That's interesting. Whoa, that's strong. Anyway, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, you can just select the material that you want. It automatically creates, by the way, a new layer. So it didn't even use the layer that I was on. It automatically created a new layer, smart filter, and the substance. Okay, and you can change all of the attributes, even the lighting. You even click here, and let's say I want to change the lighting to red. You could change the lighting. And again, I'm going to say, like one guy I heard today on a YouTube video, I'm not going to tell you how to slide a slider. Okay, all you got to do is just move those sliders around and get what you want for your image by just sliding your slider. So I'm not going to go through all the details. Even with this, there's a boatload, and that's a technical term, things that you can change to manipulate this background. And then in some of these, you have presets. So you could click on preset. I don't know if this one does or not. Yeah. So this one has some presets that you can change to just by selecting it. Okay. So again, you're only limited by your imagination on what you can do with that. So anyway, that is the live gradient, substance that's a carryover from Adobe Illustrator. So you can do the material as well as the lighting for that. So I'll turn that off, and back to the original shape. Now let's move to the stuff that we hadn't covered, at least not in detail, which is fun to me. And that is using the neuron filters and photo restoration and all that fun stuff. So let me open up this other image, which is this group picture. Again, I'm gonna do my same protocol, Command Control J to duplicate, turn off. And then I'm going to double click my hand tool to give you a bit better view, a bigger view, bigger and better view of what's on screen. Now, I love this feature, and it blows me away. This is using artificial intelligence, okay, what I was talking about, the AI, to identify stuff in your image, okay? Stuff is a technical term. Okay, so watch what happens here when I go up here, and I'm gonna go up to filter, and I'm gonna do camera raw filter for you photographers. Y'all probably familiar with camera raw and stuff. I'm not into photography, but this feature is really nice. So once you open up this camera raw dialog box, you have this option right up at the top here. You click on it. This is where you do the masking. Now, this is where the fun begins. So you could mask. You could just click on this, and it's gonna select the subject. You saw a little preview of it right there in that window. It'll select the sky, and in this case, I don't have a sky. Or it can select the background. I mean, just with one click. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just like that, you know. Okay. So not only that, but what's even more powerful is it will select all of the people in the image or individual people in the image. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I hover over here, it's selecting, I don't know if you can see that, all three of these people in that image. But if I click here, hover over here, hover over this image, notice it's highlighting only this person right here. If I select this person, and notice that it even goes around the hair of the two people on the side of that middle person. How cool is that? I'm sorry, but that's cool. That's cool to me. Now, again, is it perfect? No, but it's a good start. Okay, never, again, remember my golden rule, imitate it, but never duplicate it. You're gonna have to clean up some stuff, but for this, it's not too bad. And then if I hover over the third person, look at that. Even the hair on that other person got swiped out of the way, and just that person, there's a, I don't know if you guys can see, is a light, faint mask on top of that. That's the mask for that person, okay? So I can literally just hover over each one of these people to highlight, or all of them, to highlight any one of them, or all of them, that I like to choose from. Now, it gets better from there. I can select one of the people in the image, one of the person in the image, and then it's gonna identify certain features or characteristics of that one person. Okay, let me illustrate that. So I'm gonna click on this person, and it gives me this person mask option. This is that person right here. Because notice it didn't do a good job right here, right? See right here? That's being masked, and it shouldn't be. So we got to correct that. Okay, and we'll see that in a minute. But what I like is this right here. I'm gonna hover over there. Notice when I hover over these different options, they get highlighted on that person. The face, right? That's kind of scary there, but you see that face. That's the body. Can you guys see that? The eye, the eyebrows rather. And this is the white of the eye. That's the eye and the pupil. The lips, purple lips. The teeth and the hair. I'm sorry, but that's all goodness to me. Okay, as my son would say, coolness. That's what he would say. That's all coolness to me. To be able to do that again, is it perfect? No, but I'm telling you, it's going to give you a good start on what you need to do. Okay, and I'm all for that. Okay. So I'm gonna select the face and the body, okay. And when I hover away, you can see that both the face and the body got selected, because only what's selected, you know, the golden rule gets affected by what you do next. Now, I can also, gets even better from there, separate, since I have two objects selected, I can separate them by create two separate masks. So I can manipulate them independent of one another. Okay, and that's what I'm gonna do here. So I'm gonna do create two masks, two separate masks. And then when I click create, let the magic begin. Notice it created two masks. You got this mask, which is the skin, and this mask, which is the face. Well, this is the body skin, and this is the face skin. You guys see that? Okay, so what I want to do is, you can see right here, it kind of didn't do a good job right here in between the fingers, right? So I need to clean that up. Well, that's easy enough. The way you do that is you know this is add, this is subtract. If you can't see that, this is subtracting from the mask, this is adding to the mask, just like you normally would do in Photoshop. So I'm gonna click subtract rather, and I'm gonna use the brush to subtract, okay? The brush tool to subtract. Now, again, I'm gonna probably make it a little bit smaller because I want to get in between here and literally just kind of paint where, you kind of see me painting away the mask so that doesn't get affected by what I do next. And I'm not doing a perfect job on this for the sake of time, but you guys can't see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of painting away that mask that didn't get actually that was actually included in there, but I'm removing it. And again, it's not perfect, but you guys kind of get where I'm going with this. Okay, so I got most of it. Okay, and again, if there was production, I'd probably do a better job of, cleaning this up, but you guys kind of get where I'm going with that. So now that I've subtracted from that mask, and you kind of see a little bit maybe right there, it's really faint, small, but that's where I made some changes. Now that you've done that, now with the body skin, so you got the body skin, remember that's the mask, and you got the face skin. Well, what I was wanting to do, I'm gonna turn the overlay off so you can see this better. Maybe what I want to do is make her body right here and here kind of closer to this tone. That's what I want to do, right? So again, I'm gonna select what I want to affect, which is the body skin, right? And I'm not going to go over all these features. You could change whatever you want, but I'm going to just keep it simple for the student, which is KISS, remember. I'm going to just do a curve. You guys familiar with curves? A curve basically makes stuff light or darker. I mean, that's the beginner's definition of curves. John can probably give you a more geekish term, a definition of it. So anyway, I'm going to just pull on this curve handle, and you kind of see I'm going to brighten it, right? If I go too far, it's going to be all white, which is not good. And if I go the other way, it's going to be all black. That's not good either, right? So you want to kind of adjust it, and I'm just playing with it. About right there, I think that's good enough for government work right there. Okay. And so I've increased, and again, you can do whatever. You can change the color, you can, smooth the skin, whatever you need to do. You got the mask to do it right there on the spot. You could change the light, the color, the tint, the hue, saturation. For your photographer, you can go to, you can go to town with that. So there you have it. Then you come down here. I love this feature here too. I just found out about this today. You can do a split screen. I love that because nothing like seeing those Photoshop, YouTube videos with the before and after view. Huh? You've seen that before, right? So this is before, this is after. So you get that before and after view of your scene. So anyway, there's a lot more to this. I just want to kind of scratch the surface and kind of tease you, if you will, on the things that you can do with this new artificial intelligence capability built inside of Adobe Photoshop 2023. Okay, so that's cool. I'm sorry, but I think that's cool. So that's the feature with that. And then you click on this and kind of go back to the original image. And if you click OK, then it's going to commit that to that layer. If you save the changes, I didn't, but if you did, it would commit it to that layer. So let's look at one more thing, and we'll call it a night. And that is another only available in the beta. And if you want beta, just download it from Creative Cloud. okay? You guys have created clouds, so y'all know how to do that. Is a Photoshop with data next to it, okay? Which is different from Photoshop. Okay, so let's look at another. This is actually my great grandmother, probably 1800s, I guess. And somebody took a picture on their phone, obviously. So first thing I want to do is, first thing I want to do is duplicate, Command Control J, remember, turn off the background layer. And then I want to crop. Now, a good key to remember for Photoshop users, beginners and experts alike, good key to remember is the C key, C for crop. Okay, sound like Dr. Seuss, right? Hit the C key, and now you can crop. I want to crop out. I don't need this phone thing up here, and I don't need this stuff down here. So I'm gonna crop this phone stuff out. When I double click to commit it, it crops it. Okay, and I might want to do that again. I'm gonna crop this down, crop that down. In fact, I'm gonna just crop here just a little bit as well. And I'm gonna double click again. So anyway, I cropped it, and then I'm gonna double click to zoom in a little bit better. Okay, I don't want to do this because then it'd be really pixelated, because that's what, 142%. So I'm gonna try to keep it. I know it's not as big as I would like it to be, but you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. So now that you have that, now we're going to use another artificial intelligence tool, what they call the neuro filters, which is all new, by the way, to Adobe Illustrator for the last 2 or 3 iterations of Photoshop. And there's a boatload of things that you can do. You could do skin, smooth the skin, you do smart portrait makeup, transfer, landscape, color transfer, colorize, zoom, depth of field, all kind of stuff. Well, we want to focus on, and hopefully it works with this one. If not, I might have to, because for some reason, I was getting an error with this. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm gonna click on this button right here. And yeah, we'll temporarily disable this feature. Now, for some reason, I don't know why that is. This is a beta version. It doesn't work in the beta version, but it does work in the original version. So guess what? I have the original version open in the other version of Photoshop. No, this is the standard version of Photoshop. So let me see if I can find that image, and I'm gonna have to crop it and all that fun stuff again. Command J. And then I'm gonna do turn that off. I'm gonna do a C for crop, right? And I'm gonna pull it down to the ground. I just made that up, down to the ground. Okay, and I'm gonna double click to commit, and double click here to do that. So we're back in business. I'm gonna do filter again, neuron filters, say that 10 times. Restoration, turn it on. Now you can adjust certain things like, by the way, I want to put it on a new layer when I commit this to new layer mask. Okay, so you can adjust the photo enhancement. So it's going to examine it. Now this is really process intensive, right? So it's going to examine it and try to enhance the photo. It can enhance the face. And again, this picture is not too bad. It doesn't have a lot of scratches and stuff in it, like you see with a lot of photos. But you can adjust the scratches. I don't know if this is going to remove anything, because there's not a whole lot of scratches in here. But if you had a really old photo, I've seen some examples where it did back in the 1800s, right? Did a really good job of, and then there's other adjustment that you can change as well. Then you can take other filters like colorize and click on it and let it process, because it's processing there. And now it's colorized that image. Okay, so now you have, this is the before image, this is the after image. You can see they've got some color in her face there, more or less. And this dress is kind of somewhat darker black, and this is white almost, and this is kind of like a egg-shaped, eggshell color, if you will. So I'm gonna click OK to create this on a new layer. Click OK and wait for it, bam. So this is the before, and you see that little spot right there was removed. After, before, after. And I always, every time I do that, I always think of the eye doctor when they flip that little thing up and they say number 1, number 2, and I can never tell the difference between them, right? So when I think of before and after, I always think about my doctor visits. So that's number 1, number 2, before and then after. And it did a fairly good job. Again, I remember, yeah, you could buy plugins to do this kind of stuff, or you could spend hours doing it, you know. And this picture is not really that bad. I've seen examples. If you go to YouTube, you could see examples of pictures that's, scratches and tears and rips and everything. It did clean up, do a fairly good job. Again, will it do a perfect job? No, but it does a fairly good job on cleaning up an old image for restoration. This is particularly useful if you got old pictures that you want to restore for some type of celebration, like 50-year anniversary or birthday or what have you. So any questions on that, you guys?
No, those are all that stuff is so awesome.
It is.
Although in a way, it's sort of like Karen said, I mean, I built my career restoring video and things like that, and now you push a button.
Well, I remember doing drop shadow back in the old days. John, you might be able to remember this. Photoshop 3. Now I'm dating myself, right?
Yeah.
If you want to create an object, you want to do a drop shadow. You create an object. You create the same copy of that object.
Yeah.
And you make this one black, and then you shift it over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now that's a click away.
Yeah. Right. Pretty soon I just type in cool logo and hit enter. Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, you can do that now. Let me just show you one more thing. I got 3 minutes. Let me share my screen again, because this is something you may have missed. Where am I at? Where's my screen? Where's the share screen? Oh, here it is. So let me show you this real quick, John, because I showed this the last time. Share my screen. Let's see. Let me do it with what image? What am I wanting to do? Let's do it with the runner. Control J. And I'm gonna do this really fast, so bear with me. Select the subject. Control J. And then we'll do a background. And I don't even know if you need, what did I do? Solid color. Okay, so what I wanted to do is show you this feature that allows you to, where is that at? I think that's one of those neuro filters. Let me see, I think it's, yeah. Where that's a smart object. Is it landscape? Not landscape. Which one is the background? And I can't remember how I did. I did it in one of my other classes, training in this series. But you could just give it a name. And let's see, photo restoration depth. I don't think it was this. Maybe it was this. Okay, so let's say I do this. I think, is this the one that you can, you could just type in what you wanted. You could say like outer space scene, right? And it'll create a outer space scene for you.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, it's under the one of these. I don't know if it's this one. It may, let me see, am I on the beta version? No, I'm not on the beta version. Background creator. Yeah, so here we go, right here. Watch this. This is so cool. Well, it's not working for some reason. Anyway, you could type in outer space. For some reason, this stopped working. I could type in outer space, and it's going to create an outer space, or you could say a desert, or you could say, moonwalk, right, or whatever. And it's going to create images for you. That's cool. I'm sorry, but that's cool.
Yeah, I've been, YouTube Shorts.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
sometimes I go on YouTube and there's like a YouTube Shorts feed, and I've been seeing some Photoshop stuff. And I'm like, what is that? Stuff that I'd never seen before.
Mhm.
I know it's the stuff that you were showing here. So when I saw that you were doing Photoshop today, I'm like, oh, I got to get there and watch Cornelius show some of this stuff. So thank you so much, Cornelius.
Not a problem. I'm telling you, there's some really, like I'm saying, this stupid thing is not working, but you can literally just type in whatever you want. You can say man walking on the moon and it'll just,
Yeah, it's like those other AI websites where you can type in, cartoon flying a plane or whatever. And
yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of that too. I'm seeing where you could change animation to cartoon. I see a lot of people doing that on Facebook now where they make a cartoon version of themselves. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. So who's going to teach next month? Who's going to step up to the plate and teach next month? Anybody?
I'm looking at my calendar. That would be, and it's which Thursday is it?
It's the second Thursday.
The second Thursday. So that would be like February 9th.
Let me check my calendar.
It's February 9th.
Yeah. I could put something together. I can
That
do
would be
something.
wonderful.
Can you? That would be great
Yeah,
for us.
and
That would be great.
it'll be either like After Effects or Premiere.
Either one, doesn't
Super.
matter.
Just let me know.
You
and I'll
know
put
what
up
would
the
be good?
announcement.
I don't know if you could do this or not, because this is something I would love to be able to learn to do. I just don't have the time to do it like Karen, right? A lot of things we want to do, we just don't have time to do it.
Right.
What could you do? Could you show us how to do, maybe how to create a simple template? Where you can, all you got to do is change the text. That's the trend too. I noticed in a lot of application is you have a template. All I got to do is change. Like I have a lot of tools that all I got to do is type text, and I got this 15-second animation in 3 seconds just by adding the text I want.
Yeah, well, there's it's called Mogurt files, that you can make Mogurt files, which I make them for one of my companies I work with.
Mhm.
So that you have this, you can, do this custom design graphic that's like a lower third or whatever.
Right.
And then for me, it was a game changer because, I used to have to make, say I had a video with 10 names in it where you got to make and render each one of them.
Exactly.
Now, when it's a Mogurt file, I can pull it into Premiere and you can there's a little box, like you're saying, you just change the text, copy it. There's another name, copy, there's another name that has the same animation and all that. I could do that.
Could you do something like that? That would be great. Because I'm
Yeah.
all about time saving.
Yeah, it's Mogurt files. And you can buy them too. In fact, Premiere comes with a certain group. There's places where you can get free ones. So that's what I can do. I can show you how they're built, how to use them, and where you can get some free ones.
That'll work.
And Mogurt stands for Motion Graphics Template. MOG.
Oh, thanks. I was wondering.
Yeah, it's a acronym, MOGRT, but Motion Graphics Template. Yeah.
Would
That'll
you
work.
do me the favor of emailing me a description?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'll
Thank
write
you.
something up for you. And,
Thank you.
And we'll do it.
And also with your bio.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Well, super. This was a very successful meeting. Thank you, Cornelius. Thank you,
Not a
everybody who
problem.
came. Please spread the word about this wonderful opportunity that we have on the second Thursday of each month. And I'll be putting the recording up on the website in the next week. Sherry has a question. Please, I don't know if she's waving goodbye. Let me see if there's something from Sherry in her chat. I don't think so. I think she was waving goodbye.
Okay, maybe
So
she is.
I will end the meeting for all. Thank you all.
Okay.
See you in
guys.
February. And thank you, John. We'll be in touch.
Okay. No problem. Great. Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Okay. Bye-bye.